The guy who keeps scamming us in honkaistarrail is actually really good. Tons of debuffs, big damage, and he looks like who? Sampo, despite duping and messing with us at every opportunity, does not mess around when it comes to his dots, debuffs, and viability. Pair in the fact that Kafka and Luca have just come out to emphasize just how good his potential is, and suddenly you have a 4-star who's been resurrected from the dead. Now, he's not for every team composition, but that's totally fine, because if you can find a niche wind situation where you can debuff and break with Sampo quickly, you'll see that getting scammed was worth it all along. You probably know at this point that Sampo himself can deal a decent amount of damage, but a severely underrated trait that he has is just how skill point efficient he is. What that means is that the other DPS that you pair with him can shoot into outer space and spam as many skills as they want. But how does that tie into his game plan? Well, with enough effect hit rate, using his ultimate before anyone else casts a dot provides upwards of 32% increased dot damage. So to break it down, Sampo using his skill on cooldown and making use of Wind Shear's insane 3-turn duration is how you begin. However, once you're looking to maximize damage on dots or cast a powerful ability on an enemy, make sure to use Sampo's ultimate prior to it. Like Luca, Pela, Silverwolf, etc., this is a classic debuff into big burst combo. A side benefit from all this tuning, the duration of his dot, and his ultimate's impact is that you end up with many skill points to work with that can be used on Serval, Luca, Hook, or any other damage dealer. But ultimately, so long as you upkeep Wind Shear and you use your ultimate before a big buff into damage rotation, you'll be golden. Keep it simple. Choosing the perfect light cone for Sampo might be the easiest part about gearing and playing him. Or, well, that would be true if not for the method of obtaining them. As it stands, 4-star light cones are not the easiest to have, and unless the light cone appears in the Nameless Glory, the Herda Shop, or Forgotten Halls, you're shit out of luck. However, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's the fact that you can pretty much use any of the Nihility light cones for decent results. On the off chance you haven't pulled a copy of Goodnight and Sleep Well, or Eyes of the Prey, Fermata, aka my favorite light cone, is the perfect choice given its availability in the Echo of War or Forgotten Hall stores. Additionally, the break effect and increased damage to shock or wind sheared enemies by up to 32% is no laughing matter. And if you're really desperate, you always have Before the Tutorial mission starts as your backup in case you need effect hit rate. Traces, though one of Starrail's most grueling grinds and worse than any possible memory of Chaos Floor, is something that everyone has to deal with. For Sampo, he takes the role of a damage dealer and therefore should max all traces for increased value. However, his talent, ultimate, and skill can all be upgraded first alongside every major trace with the stat bonuses along the way. What does that actually mean? Just max as many traces as you can on the guy who needs more damage in every aspect of his kit. Sorry. If taking a moment to step back and observe where these changes would be noticeable, an increase in wind shear damage and the scaling on his ultimate debuff are among the several important upgrades that Sampo needs in order to function. Upgrading his basic definitely takes the lowest priority since it is a decent but not very noticeable increase in damage. However, you will end up using it frequently in order to save skill points. Sampo's relic choice is somewhat of an outlier relative to other DPS or even Nihility characters in honkaistarrail. Normally, you would expect a character of X element to use X element associated set, and Sampo is no different, but there is a decent discussion to be had about whether 4-piece Eagle is actually worth it. In the general relic and gearing world of honkaistarrail, the Eagle set is extremely valuable since the passive from 4-piece allows supports, healers, tanks, etc. additional turns with the advance forward. However, with Sampo, the 2-piece set effect of having wind damage is more appealing as a wind-based damage dealer. Pair this with the fact that he scales very well with attack, in consideration of 2-piece Musketeer and 2 Eagle as the best in slot combo should be discussed. Now, of course, whatever set you end up using based on what you own is always ideal, but in case you were looking to min-max and sweat out a perfect Sampo build, consider running 2 2-pieces instead of a 4-piece. That being said, the difference between Wind, Musketeer, and even the Messenger set is minimal in the long run. To get us back on track, the Pan-Galactic Commercial Enterprise set is very good, considering how important effect hit rate is on Sampo, but similar to how it was mentioned in my previous Luca guide, not everyone has this planar set. The effect hit rate is extremely valuable considering you save 10 effect hit rate from your substats on Relics, but this is at the cost of having to farm the set to begin with. Additionally, the Space Sealing Station provides more attack percent until the wearer of the Pan-Galactic set reaches 100% effect hit rate. Spoiler alerts, that's not very easy. As a super quick minor note, you could also run Fleet of the Ageless, since it's the equivalent to the Messenger or Musketeer sets, but just for planar sets. For main stats, look no further than a Wind Sphere on any Sampo build, an effect hit rate chest if you're below 67 effect hit rate, attack if you're over that threshold, and then the real conversation starts. Speed versus attack boot, attack versus energy regen robe, break effect robe? As someone who has tested characters on both speed and attack boots, this question always comes down to the supports that you take with the DPS. If Bronya or Asa are taken and no speed tuning is necessary, there's good reason to invest in higher damage as opposed to speed. However, if Sampo is being taken alongside Kafka, Luca, and no Bronya or supportive cast, even the speed tuning alone would make using a speed main stat boot more worthwhile. In conversations regarding attack versus energy regen robe, it comes down to preference in which role's better, but energy regen allows for more ultimate debuff uptime, whereas an attack percent rope allows for more consistent higher bursts. Just like everything else in this build guide, however, it is very dependent on your gear. Sorry for being a broken record, but it's just the truth. With all this out of the way, a few things to keep in mind when it comes to stat breakpoints. Keeping 67% on effect hit rate and maintaining high attack is crucial in making Sampo work. But if you aren't speed tuned properly, his true potential will definitely lack. So make sure he takes a turn before his allies that apply dots. Regarding Sampo's Eidolons, I classify them to be win more boosts to his kit. His first Eidolon deals damage to one extra enemy, which is nice since you have an extra opportunity to inflict wind shear, and in general, this is simply a minor increase in damage. When looking at his second Eidolon, additional wind shear stacking is another decent increase to Sampo's overall DPS. But something that you'll notice about all of Sampo's Eidolons is the fact that they all affect wind shear, and that they all just increase Sampo's total damage output. Now I know I just mentioned that with his first and second Eidolon, but Sampo's Eidolons feel somewhat lazy considering they're just that increases at best, and forgotten parts of Sampo's multipliers at worst. To continue and summarize quickly, his fourth Eidolon acts as a burst once hitting an enemy with high stacks of wind shear, and his sixth Eidolon acts as the final increase to take his damage to the next level. In fairness, these Eidolons are reminiscent of Kafka's, and she does do a ridiculous amount of damage when she gets her Eidolons, but focusing on obtaining these Eidolons in particular is not very worth it. Now I know a lot of the focus on the previous sections has to do with Sampo's potential as a damage dealer and how to maximize his kit, but the reality is that other Nihility characters gain a crazy amount of value when paired with him. This isn't to say that you shouldn't focus on him, but keep in mind that the ceiling for his greatness also has to do with the quality of his allies. In any case, two teams come to mind regarding potential Sampo shining squads. The first team is with an accessible Sampo, Natasha, Fire Trailblazer, and your choice of flex DPS. With Natasha and the Trailblazer, they're your dynamic duo of preservation and abundance sustained combo, followed by the meat of your damage with Sampo and a flex DPS. Natasha cleanses and heals, the Fire Trailblazer is a continuous shielder and provoker, and Sampo in this case acts as an additional weakness break, a damage amplifier to a dot based second DPS, and a decent secondary DPS himself as well. The flex DPS is the flex DPS, mix and match the element, and we're good to go. Solid protection and clear speed all around, good stuff. If we look toward the second composition that works well with Sampo, there's great value to pairing Sampo with other debuffers like Luca, Kafka, etc, etc. But remember that rounding out the latter half of the team with either supports like Tingyun or Asta will also make the game much easier. Alternatively, if healing or staying alive is an issue, Luocha can replace the buffers, while Japard is a great secondary option as well. These two need no real introduction, but as a quick rundown, Big Shield very good, freeze all enemies, heal, and don't let anyone die. This is a great two-person combo. Now Kafka, Sampo, and any combination of Nihility characters does well considering the way that their kits interact, but Kafka herself has an unparalleled level of utility and damage for the Nihility category. So keep that in mind when you're deciding who to pair with Sampo. Anywho, that's everything you need to know about playing Sampo, guys. I hope you enjoyed and learned something from this guide. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, turn the notification bell. Let me know what you think about Sampo. This guy's been carrying a lot of my memory of chaos recently, especially with Kafka, but I'm curious about what you guys think about him. But as always, if you'd like to throw a follow into Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Discord, all the other socials, I would appreciate it a lot, guys. I always theorycraft, talk to chat about things that are upcoming in Honkai Star Rail, etc, etc. As always, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you on the next one. Adios.